Howdy, welcome back. So we'll go ahead and wrap up today's lesson with a very brief discussion on our progression in this course. So let's talk about how we arrived at where we are today and kind of the different programming paradigms we've seen along the way. So we started from a purely imperative standpoint, and it's important to note that we can really solve a large number of problems without writing a single class or writing a single function for that matter, but outside of main. But you probably wouldn't want to do that because you'd rather, well, use objects to combine state and behavior and allow you to model real-world entities through data abstraction, like trees, which we could walk through iteratively, except we then saw how recursive could provide a much cleaner and more powerful way to program various behaviors associated with our tree structures. So along the way, we saw purely imperative style of programming. We then ramped that up a little and transitioned into procedural programming. And then we try to think about, okay, well, in that case, the functions kind of took precedence maybe over the data. Well, how can we wrap these together so we can pass around, objects where we can ask them to do things and they'll operate on that data and pass messages back to us, communicating their results. And going through these motions, we then kind of came across different problems that it was very maybe natural to solve few in an iterative manner. And then we saw other cases where recursion was just easier to think about and provided a far simpler implementation for us, and how we could actually really leverage the call stack to help come up with different kind of routines for some of the implementations that we were looking to use. So kind of all of these concepts, were originally once new, perhaps unfamiliar to you, but throughout this course, hopefully they become more natural with practice. And, the idea was a lot more practice in it kind of interacting with, thinking imperatively, even if it was in the object-oriented paradigm. And then also, well, how could we bring in, different solutions through to think about that for whether it's iteration or recursion to kind of accomplish similar ends. Now we want to move on to kind of a different style entirely. We're going to transition and begin to think about things from a declarative perspective and how in the C++ programming language we can implement or use a functional programming style to go ahead and start tackling various problems. So with that, there's more ahead. It will be functional style programming in C++. We'll introduce what functional kind of style programming is in the next lesson. We'll talk about higher order functions, first class functions, and then we'll begin moving in the latter lessons of kind of this themed sequence to discuss passing functions to functions as pointer. So function pointers. We'll then get into function objects, and then we'll go ahead and discuss or introduce lambda functions. And then we'll conclude this kind of sequence by looking at or implementing our own filter function and kind of the considerations that go into that. So with that, I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And this concludes today's lesson.